All right, everyone, welcome to Strictly Sports. Today is our defending World Series champion season preview video of the Washington Nationals. It's pretty cool to say that for them. They've been trying to win a World Series for a really long time, and sadly, because of all the things that happened in the offseason, they really weren't mentioned a lot. This is a team that, and we'll just start talking about their World Series win first. This is a team that went years and years trying to win a championship. They made all of the right executive moves, signing the right players, letting certain players go, making right decisions in that regard, and it finally paid off with the World Series ring. What are your thoughts on that World Series championship?
It was impressive. I really, hats off to them. People forget they were down 3-1 in that wild card game. Juan Soto, playoff hero there, driving in those and that 3 runs to clear the bases there. But hats off to them. They've been trying year in year out to make it work. I mean, Strasburg's been there a while. Guys like Scherzer who've busted their butt to really try to get that team to the next level, and the young guys stepped up. I mean, Trey Turner, came through, Soto, and then you got your older guys. Let's see who. Oh, Howie Kendrick. I mean,
Yeah.
geez, he had a career year. I mean, batting 344. I mean, he came in clutch situations, had that giant grand slam against the Dodgers. Game tying homer against the Astros in Game 7. So I mean, they took it wasn't an easy road for them to get to the World Series and and win it, but that's how you do it sometimes. It's battle adversity and find a way to win, and it's very impressive that they were able to do it and go to as many game fives, game sevens as they did on the road, and just hats off to them and congratulations.
So now this team has proven they've won a championship, so that means you got to fear them in some respects. But they did lose talent for sure this offseason. Anthony Rendon, arguably the best third baseman in baseball, signs a 7-year deal with the Los Angeles Angels, so he is gone. He was really it was Soto and Rendon really and Turner as the three big hitters in this lineup, and now you lose Rendon. That's a big deal. They still have this rotation intact as they re-sign Steven Strasburg. Other offensive moves that happened, they let go of Matt Adams but signed Eric Thames to replace him. So essentially, they're both the same player there. They keep Asdrubal Cabrera, they keep Howie Kendrick, and then they sign Starlin Castro to a free agent deal as well. He'll be their second baseman, and it's projected that Carter Kieboom, a prospect of theirs, will take over for Rendon at third base. And he's actually got some pretty bright numbers at AAA, hitting over 300 with some pretty decent numbers over there as well. And, maybe he can take over as a 21-year-old, 22-year-old at third base and make the Rendon loss go away. I just don't think he'll replicate that production. But overall, when you look at this Nationals lineup, they have it projected at Victor Robles, the young center fielder, leading off, then Adam Eaton in the 2 hole, then Trey Turner, Juan Soto, then Asdrubal Cabrera hitting fifth, then Starlin Castro, Eric Thames, and then either Kurt Suzuki or Yan Gomes at catcher. They kind of split time down there. That is not a great lineup at all to me, Steven. I mean, it's really only Turner and Soto and then everyone else. What do you think about that lineup?
I like it. I think they have guys that are really disciplined at the plate. I mean, Turner, obviously, like we talked about, he's probably their best hitter right now. Batting 298 last year, 19 homers, 57 RBIs, 35 stolen bases too. So guy gets on base and can definitely move around the base paths. Juan Soto, yeah, love his approach to the plate. I mean, he talking about a guy who gets down 0-2 in accounts all the time and just finds a way to get back even, gets ahead 3-2, finds a pitch to drive, makes you pay for it. A guy right there who can really help you out in the lineup in that third spot, fourth spot maybe. They added Starlin Castro to the lineup this past offseason. That's one of their additions. I think could help out in that middle to end of the lineup. Um, you got guys like Howie Kendrick, who knows how good of a year he has after having a career year last year. He batted 344,
Yeah, still
17
projected on the
homers.
bench.
Yeah, they still have him, platooning there. I think they have him at on the depth chart. They have him at second base right now.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, this lineup, I'm confident their abilities being going there to the World Series, being through this playoff run, being able to, fight through certain situations. So that's why I'm not too concerned with this lineup. Yeah, guys like Kurt Suzuki behind the dish too, and then you have Yan Gomes who's backing up Suzuki that's in the backup catching spot. But guys like Robles, Young, um, I'm not concerned. The Adam Eaton batting, they have him in the second spot, batting 280. So I think the production can be there for this team. They're backed up by a solid 1 through 5 rotation. So this team can win a lot of games. It's can they get certain pieces like can Kendrick come and have the same year as he did last year? Is Soto going to produce being as young as he is? So those are my only two question marks in that lineup. Other than that, I think they'll be just fine.
I don't. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I just think like if you're relying on production out of Adam Eaton, you might not get it. If you're relying on production out of Victor Robles, who knows what you're going to get with that? I mean, you look at Victor Robles last year, and his on base was only 326, and he had 17 over 65 RBIs. So he doesn't really walk. His OPS was under 800, slugging at 419, which isn't great. And he's projected to lead off. That concerns me. You look at Adam Eaton, and he's a guy that missed a ton of time last year. And you look at his stats. 15 home runs, 49 RBIs, 365 on base. So he had a good year. If I'm them, I would lead off Eaton instead, and maybe put Keyboom or someone else in that two-hole, lower Robles a little bit. But it's just like if you're relying on Trey Turner and Juan Soto for your entire offensive production, I think that's a problem because there's really no one that they got to replace Rendon other than maybe saying, okay, maybe our prospect Carter Keyboom can take over. He won't. I mean, he's a good minor league hitter, hit over 300, but he's not Anthony Rendon. And then they're saying, oh, well, maybe we can count on a collection of veterans and, Ryan Zimmerman, Thames, Suzuki, Cabrera, Castro. These are all guys that are past their primes that really, are not relied on for production anymore. And so I look at their lineup and I think it's very underwhelming. I think what will carry them though is their starting rotation, and that's what got them through last year. Their starting rotation, especially the big three, Scherzer, Strasburg, Corbin, is probably the best three in baseball. Now that Noah Syndergaard is injured for the entire season, so I look at the Nats and I say starting rotation will carry them. If that lineup can get 3 or 4 runs a night and they can count on their starting pitching to really keep them in games, then they'll win that way. But then I look at their bullpen too, and that's not even that strong. They lost some bullpen pieces as well. So, how do you view their rotation, Steven, and how it balances out with the rest of their team?
They're obviously their top three guys can really be horses for them. Max Scherzer went. He was their number one last year. He had a 2.92. He had 2.92 ERA, 243 strikeouts, 102 WHIP. Strasburg wasn't far behind. He had a 103 WHIP, 251 strikeouts with a 3.32 ERA. And then backing up behind that, Patrick Corbin went 14-7. Strasburg won 18 games, by the way. Corbin with a 3.25 ERA, 1.18 WHIP, and 240 strikeouts.
I mean, Jesus.
I mean, look at the top three there. I mean, you're going 3 days in a row with those three guys rolling out there. You go to a weekend series with those guys going in a divisional matchup. I mean, those guys can win you games. Scherzer and Strasburg can really swing games. They can go 8 innings and really shut you down, give up 1 or 2 runs. If you score 4, you win. If you score maybe 3, you win. And then you go look at Anibal Sanchez,
Yeah.
who he's been up and down, but last year he went 11-8, 3.85 ERA, 134 strikeouts with a 1.2 WHIP. So 1 through 4, I like their rotation right there. If you have 4 good starters in the major leagues, you're generally going to be in good shape. Your fifth starter is usually kind of thrown in and out. Throughout the beginning of the season, you find out who you have, who's young, who can try to fill in that role, eat some innings up. Could be a bullpen guy to go in there, but the starting pitching balances that team out for sure. It definitely is going to carry them. It's what's going to help them win a lot of games, and I think that's going to leapfrog them into the playoffs this year. I think that's what will get them there. I think the starting lineup will generate enough runs for that support for that pitching staff. So I think they're in good shape with that 1 through 3 part of the rotation.
And I might have misspoke a little bit on that bullpen. They do have arms out there. I mean, they've got Sean Doolittle, solid, but he had a over 4 ERA. They have Roenis Elias, who they can rely on for innings out there. They signed Will Harris from the Astros, very, very effective reliever. They kept Daniel Hudson, who they used to close last year. And then, I guess they have, what is that, one, two, three reliable relievers, I guess you could say, which is good enough with a rotation like that. So the plan for them, I guess, is try and score enough runs to give the big starting pitchers enough of a security blanket to go out there and deal without having to worry about much, and we can rack up some wins here.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I looked at a guy who I had starred next to my notes here. It was Will Harris, a guy who played for the Astros last year. Coincidentally, gave up the Game 7 homer to Howie Kendricks. What a small world, right?
Yeah.
Had a 1.5 ERA, 4-1 record of the bullpen. 60 innings pitched. Sorry about that. 14 walks, 62 strikeouts. So the numbers were dominant. A guy who really will be a back end guy for them. Doolittle coming in struggled a little bit last year. His numbers weren't, too great. He was kind of shaky in the middle of the year. He kind of picked it up in the postseason, obviously.
Yeah, I think that's because of overuse, because he was really it out there.
Yeah, he was only their only guy. I mean, beginning of the year they were using him so much, and then you got to the middle part, and then he started to wear on him a little bit. He had a 4.05 ERA. He had 29 saves in 60 innings pitched, 66 strikeouts. But then they rested him a little bit. They found younger guys when the roster expanded in September. They gave him some time off. They didn't pitch him every night, and then postseason he looked like a new pitcher. He saved the bullets, and he was just blowing it by guys. So. Him coming back in the closing spot is good for the Nationals. Adding Will Harris, having Hudson coming back, that was a big signing in the offseason to get him to stay in DC, which, there's three guys right there that you can work with.
Yeah, I mean, that's a
back
7,
into
8,
the
9
bullpen.
punch right there, and that's what you need.
Exactly. And then you got guys who you really can experiment with in this bullpen. You got Joe Ross, Tanner Rainey. I mean, you have guys that you can, place in and out and see where you can fit them in and be bridge guys.
Yeah, I mean, they might even try Joe Ross as a starter again in that fifth spot. So you never know with
Yeah,
him.
that's my fifth guy in the rotation right now. He was a 500 guy last year, kind of experimental. Numbers really aren't too indicative of how he pitched, but definitely a guy you could probably see in there in the rotation this year.
And they don't they really don't have much of a minor league rotation to come from, so that there's nothing really coming in that regard. So it's those four starters, and then if they need a fifth guy desperately, they would need to swing a trade or sign someone next off season. But like that's the worst of your concerns if you're the Nationals, the fifth starter spot. The biggest concerns are going to come from how do we replace Rendon's bat in the lineup? Can Eric Thames replicate what Matt Adams did? I think he can. I think, Eric Thames and Matt Adams are essentially the same guy. Thames might even be a little bit better. And then you look at Starlin Castro. He's not a guy that walks a lot. I think he had a 300 on base, which is pretty bad. So can you rely on him? He gives you maybe 20 plus homers, but if he doesn't walk, what's his use? And so you got to look at those things. And the one guy that I think we can't rave enough about is Juan Soto. Hit 282 last year, but with a 401 on base percentage. He's only 20 years old. I mean, this guy is walking at a 400 clip at that young age, which I think is just absolutely incredible, along with 34 home runs and 110 RBIs. I mean, that's crazy from a guy that young.
Yeah, he's a guy like we talked about earlier in the episode. I mean, he really is patient. I mean, like for being only, a second year in the league, I mean, his first year he played 116 games, last year 150. The confidence this guy has is just incredible. I mean, for a guy who's that young, he's only 20 years old. He's my age. I mean, geez, to be on to be at the highest level and go against guys like Garrett Cole and dominate and really just not be phased. It's just impressive. I mean, he walked 108 times last year.
My
Look at
God.
that's an impressive number right there. You can walk 108 times. That shows you work the count. You're not an easy out. And from what I watched in the postseason, he was not every time he got up to the plate, I don't think he had all but two or three at bats where he just kind of didn't look there. But other than that, he's lethal. 110 RBIs, 34 homers. I mean, the ceiling is
Who
just
who
so
would you
high for this
take,
guy.
Soto or Acuna?
Oh, I mean, that's tough right there. I mean, in terms of production, I don't know. I mean, because you can look at both ways. Soto gets on base a ton, but then Acuna can just light it up. Right as of right now, I would take Acuna, um, just because of his play in the outfield is just amazing as well. That's the only edge I would give Acuna over Soto right
Yeah,
now.
and stolen bases
Um,
too.
yeah, that's the only thing I would say that gives him the edge. But Soto, if he comes out again this year and lights it up, has the same amount of walks, gets on base as much as he does, I think you start leaning towards Soto to
Yeah,
be
and
the next young gun.
that's why I like Soto just a little bit more. I like the patience at such an early age, and not just the patience, the lack of strikeouts. Acuna also strikes out a lot, and as pitchers start to learn him, maybe that becomes a problem. Again, no Acuna slander here. I think he's a tremendous young player. It's just when you're splitting hairs, you kind of have to call those things out. But I mean, they're so close. I would agree with you. Acuna is better defensively. They do play different positions now. They're both not left fielders anymore because the Braves signed Ozuna. But I mean, it's just so close, and it's going to be so much fun to watch. I mean, they're in the same division, two young studs competing every year, and also Pete Alonso over with the Mets. So those are three players on those three teams that are going to be there for quite some time, battling it out. So what do we have here for the wins losses for the Washington Nationals? Again, defending champs last year. Are we respecting that?
I respect it. I think they're going to get back to the postseason. Right now, I have them being the first wild card. Again, I have them at 87 wins right now, 87 and 75 on the year, coming in second place in the division. Um, so it kind of throws away that I think the Mets are going to win the division. But
Yeah,
right now, I think this team is prime. They brought back a lot of key pieces. Obviously, you lost Rendon, but like we talked about, you can't emphasize how good the pitching staff is. Um, Adding some bullpen pieces, Will Harris, I think that'll leapfrog them over some teams that are kind of searching for pitching in the National League, which has been weaker as of late. Obviously, it's top heavy the Dodgers, but I think they do get back to the postseason. We'll make it there. How about you?
yeah. I'm gonna hold back on what I said last episode with the Braves not making the playoffs. I to be honest with you, I keep going back and forth on it. I'm gonna wait until we actually do the playoff video to say whether teams are gonna make the playoffs or not. But all I'll say is they will not win the division, and they will win. I would say probably 86, 87 games.
Yeah, I
I
mean this we talked about it. I mean this division's like it's slept on a whole lot.
Yeah, because it's like 20 minutes ago before we filmed this one, I kind of was set, Atlanta's definitely better. But then you're talking about it, it's like, okay, maybe the Nats have a bad lineup, or not a bad lineup, but worse than everyone else's. But it really does balance out when you have essentially three aces coming out 3 days in a row, going 7, 8 innings. That's really something that's rare in today's game.
Yeah, you don't see it a whole lot. I mean, guys, I mean pitching wins you championships and I look at teams like that have won it. I mean, if you have a solid rotation, you don't need to score, 8 or 9 runs a night. But when you have, subpar pitching, then you got to lean on your 1 through 9 to score a ton of runs a game. And in baseball, you're not going to get 8 runs a night. So yeah, I give the edge to the Nationals to get back there because they have the pitching and they have proven they can do it. And that's why baseball is so fun to watch. People rag on it all the time for being boring, but if you really did the research and looked at it, I mean it's exciting because you just never know what you're going to get. I mean, this pitching staff could come out and light it up again, or it could really go sideways, and these guys have off years. So I mean, it's very exciting to really predict and look at. So I'm excited to watch this division unfold and see where the Nats end up.
For sure. And that'll do it for this episode, previewing the Washington Nationals. Hopefully they get to play. We've mentioned that in every video. We know that these seasons might not even happen. We want to bring these videos to you guys either way. So this video is now on YouTube. It's also on Spotify and a bunch of other websites. You can see all of those links on our Twitter at Strict Sports FAU. For Stephen Cashin, I'm Jacob Brown. We will see you tomorrow with what division are we doing next, Stephen?
We're gonna do. I actually haven't really decided yet. I mean, it's to be determined right now. I think we should do the Central.
Okay, yeah, we'll move on to the NL Central. The next video after this one will be on the Pittsburgh Pirates. So that'll be the next video after this Nationals video. And then we will have another NBA video coming to you today as well. So that'll do it. For Stephen, I'm Jacob, and we will see you next time.